Hi, my name is Malachi. Thank you for watching this video of a vision of presidents. God gave me a vision back in 2021, August of 2021. Today is August the 30th of 2023. I believe you'll be astounded what God reveals here in this vision that He alone could do. This is something that I've shared with family and friends back when this occurred, but this is a beginning point for me in my public ministry. There's videos that I'm uploading recently and sharing, so I hope you'll check out more of my content. This is a vision that God gave me in 2021, and I've entitled this Vision of Presidents. Watch to the end, see what God has revealed. It's quite astounding. If you're like me, it will blow you away. Thank you so much. May God bless. So I'm going to read this as I wrote it down when this took place. It was on August the 1st, 2021 at around 3 a.m. Central Standard Time. A vision that God gave me of presidents and circumstances. Please note that this account is written that which I saw in a vision while I was wide awake. If I included any interpretation, then it is noted as an interpretation or viewpoint or feeling that the particular scene of the vision portrayed to me. So here we go. This was a very vivid vision in many respects. There was parts that I couldn't clearly see very well, but it was there. Lots of elements. But when the vision started, it was like I was outside of a window and then it zoomed in. And you have to understand, I don't watch much news or anything like that. This was truly a vision. It was very vivid. It came over me, so to speak. So I wasn't just a half-baked lasagna or something that went bad. It was truly a vision that came over me that I saw before my very eyes in a spiritual way. In this vision, I am seeing a chair, just a nice chair, and an old wealthy man seated drinking scotch or something on the rocks. He's dressed in bedclothes, but I see this man sitting at a chair, like being in a camera, and it's showing his arm and zooming up from there. I saw a snake slithering up the chair around him, through his sleeve and out of his sleeve. He takes the snake and throws it off as if it was nothing, day-to-day commonplace thing. And he's wearing a blue Chinese bathrobe, house slippers, bedclothes, very clearly at nighttime. The man is tired. He gets up and goes to his desk. He starts scribbling on a piece of paper like literal scribbles. His pen wouldn't write, drawing circles. He became frustrated, like he didn't know why he was doing or what he was doing. Then all of a sudden, a door opens and in walks, I now see clearly, this is Jill Biden. And it was then I realized that it was brought to my full awareness that this was the Oval Office and this was the Bidens that I was seeing. I felt like I was seeing a private moment that could be actually potentially happening in real time. This part of the vision looked like it could be possible it was really happening. I'm not sure, but it seemed like I was seeing, because everything that was unfolding was like in real time. It was slow, it wasn't just fast, like a quick shot of a vision. It was like in real time. So I now realize that Joe had been the one sitting in an armchair at first there in the Oval Office. The interesting thing is she came in from the side room where common knowledge would lead me to believe the president's private offices are. She talks to him as that of a wife, talking to him like a child or like an old man in his latter years who had seen better days. She wasn't warm or sweet, just straightforward. She went to the desk immediately upon entering the Oval. She was still fully dressed, business attire. He gets up and just standing there for a moment, drink in hand, and she sits down at the desk and immediately she goes to work. She then tells him, go to bed, kind of stern in a way, like she's clearly in charge, kind of thing between the two of them, wearing the pants, as some say. She was doing something major and preparing for something on his behalf is what I saw, or what it seemed like, working on or making up time, getting the job done. As a president, a lot of work needs to be done. Joe Biden leaves the room and she's there hard at work. All of a sudden, the vision shifts. And there's about 3 sections in this vision, so this would be like the second part. The vision shifts, and in walks Barack and Michelle Obama from the doors that lead to the outside, in behind the desk. It was very late at night, clearly, and it felt like they kind of was snuck in, so to speak. And then, to my surprise, I see another door open. The common knowledge is secretary's offices are. The secretary's office's door that she's coming through, and just to show how amazed that I am by this vision myself that God gave, is I didn't even think about for about 2 years the significance that she is walking through the secretary's common knowledge that it's a secretary's door. Because what was she? This hit me 2 years later. She was the Secretary of State. So in walks Hillary Clinton and through the secretary's office door, and she sits down at a seat in the place where you might say is where the president would normally sit, on the right hand side, facing them from like a camera. So she walks in, she sits down. This is a business meeting, and she's kind of like in charge, it felt like, or thought she was, assuming that position. And Barack Obama was seated to her right or to the left if you're facing them as a camera. So it's interesting, left to right, former President Barack Obama sitting there on the left if you're facing them, and to the right is Hillary Clinton. And that seems to indicate that God was showing, this was the plan, this was the plot. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. I believe it symbolizes more than that the plan didn't just end there, it continued on. But here's sets this business meeting, and these former president Barack Obama, former Secretary of State, former First Lady, as well as Jill Biden, and I believe also was in the room with some others, and Michelle Obama as well. So they're seated there, and this is a meeting, and they're laughing and talking. This meeting is happening in the dead of night, and there was really no one around that could be seen. It just really felt very strangely alone within the White House. I'm sure there were Secret Service personnel around. Now, all of a sudden, again, the vision shifts, and it becomes much more abstract imagery. And I saw a small clock, like a little old pocket watch. And I see this small pocket watch type clock, and I saw and was shown it going towards and then entering into Hillary Clinton's bloodstream. Again, this is a vision. This is imagery at this part. I see it and am following it to her heart, seeing the veins as it flows until it reaches her heart. It starts ticking, tick, 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 and then brought as if a camera out of her heart immediately, and I'm now seeing her face again. She's laughing, a big laugh, ha, ha, ha. Not the feeling of something funny, but more something sinister type of a laugh. Sounding expressions on her face is what made me believe that interpreted. And I see her laughter now turning into a manic state. And so, as she's laughing hysterically, her laughter, she never ceases laughing until she collapses into the floor. And as she did, I saw as like her body begins to fade into the floor as that of dust. Now, I pray this is not true, and I pray for sure for her eternal salvation through Jesus Christ, that she would repent and come to know Jesus, and this would not be the case. But this is what I saw in this vision. The vision shifts again. I'm transported to another location in time. I now see former President Bush, George W. Bush, talking to former President Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Bush reaches into Obama's coat, to Obama's surprise, and into his coat pocket and pulls something out. The interpretation of the feeling behind this is, I believe, his passport or evidence of wrongdoing or something. It's like they had been caught. And then President Bush reaches into Bill's coat pocket and grabs something out, like they had been caught. Bush pulls out this old military phone with a big, antenna. And I heard him say, "We got them." It's like he had been asked to do this and pretend to be their friend and catch them in something. Now, I thought I saw President Bush, George W. Bush, but his face wasn't necessarily clear to me. Obama's and Bill Clinton's were very clear. But with Bush, I don't know. So I believe there's some symbols there of some things about what's really happening and what's really taking place with George W. Bush. I'm then taken to another scene. I now see former President Bush and President Trump standing what I thought was President Bush. Again, his face at that point was not clear. I never saw President Bush, his face very clearly, but I did see him there, or I thought that I did. It could have been Mike Pence. But I saw President Bush and President Trump standing at the right-hand corner. If you're facing the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, the right-hand corner at the very bottom of the steps at the right-hand corner. So as I'm taken to this other scene and I'm seeing potentially President Bush or Mike Pence and President Trump standing at the right-hand corner, the very far bottom of the steps on the right-hand side. There's no one around. It is dark. The sun is the only thing that is really shining and bringing any light. And the sun is kind of on the horizon. It seemed like very early hours of the morning, very, very, probably, 4 or 5 a.m. And I see Bush or Mike Pence hand something to Trump. It's like what he had just gotten from Obama and Bill Clinton. They seemed to reconcile from times past. It felt like there would be great honor to, I believe, Mike Pence probably is what this symbolized. But again, I believe George W. Bush there's some symbols here with George W. Bush. God hasn't revealed everything. I believe over time, when we see things unfold, this vision will be very clear of what God actually was revealing. But what I interpreted that day was this was President George W. Bush. But it seemed like what he had done in this moment in history he would be honored for, because he basically was humble and came back to President Trump and assisted in taking back our nation for God and for freedom as it was established. This is my interpretation that I believe God was showing me that the election was indeed stolen, that former President George W. Bush, for a while, or Mike Pence, whichever one it really symbolized, for a while was being manipulated and preyed upon, being used by potentially Obama or Bill and others to come against or not show approval, influencing President Trump's image. But yet, at the same time, Mike Pence Bush was blinded that he was only a pawn and a puppet to them, or of a wicked planned thing. This is my interpretation of what I was seeing. So when former President Bush or Mike Pence handed these things, he got from Obama and Bill's pockets to President Trump, and he handed them to Trump. I did not see what the items were, but Trump looked at him. Each of them looked warmly as that of friends. And all of a sudden, Trump takes this thing that was handed to him and raised his arm and threw it in front of him towards the Washington Monument. And another dramatic shift. I see whatever it was that was handed to President Trump was transformed in midair into like a missile that was an arrow. And night immediately turned to bright as day. As the missile struck the ground, I immediately see military forces, troops, marching on Washington. What seemed like was down towards the Capitol. I see troops also going to the White House. It seemed like they were, in Washington, in the streets at various places. I then see troops standing inside of the White House searching for Obama and for his counterparts. So I'm seeing them searching the White House for Jill and for Joe and others. And I see Jill hiding under the Oval Office desk. She finds a gun. One can imagine that there is probably a gun underneath the Oval Office desk, so it wouldn't be far from the imagination. She finds a gun while under the desk, and she points it in defense. But she didn't shoot. She surrendered. And it's interpreted she knew her time was up and she had to surrender. She knew that was obvious. Facing military soldiers, obviously also interpret that her husband and others were maybe not. They were thinking that they could withstand this, but she recognized the handwriting was on the wall and she surrendered. The next scenes were glimpses and not as detailed. So I saw soldiers, they're fully suited up for war. I see them walking through and taking what appeared like prisoners at the end of war, lining them up. I see Barack Obama. It seemed like he was trying to flee. It didn't appear very long, but it looked like he had tried to flee. Whether it be Washington or the nation, I don't know. but I see that as a glimpse that he had tried to flee. And then I'm seeing a bit more clearly, I see Biden hiding cowardly or in a room I couldn't distinctly tell which room, but it was in the White House, it seemed, and he was trying to find a means out, and he was very afraid, terrified actually, trying to hide. And during this portion of the vision, I remember it was like two different men, but maybe one, and it was like glimpses, glimpse. So it appeared like maybe two different men, and understanding now what we're seeing unfold, it could have represented the reason it may have seemed like two different men being searched for is Hunter and Joe. But he was crouched down behind his bed in a relatively small room, and his arms were outstretched and just in utter terror as the military personnel had come upon him. They find him. They take him by two military service persons, one on each arm, and I'm literally seeing it's like a hallway. Like I said, this is a vision. There's a lot of symbols. It almost appeared at this moment it was a more private residence. It could have been a private house. It could be someone else in this moment, like his son Hunter. But it was clearly that he was coming through like a hallway, and there was a window and carpet. That part was very clear. And they find him there, maybe in the White House. He drops a bunch of papers he was holding. This was interpreted back in 2021. These seem to indicate to me that further evidences of some kind concerning some form of illegal activities will be found even after they do all this. Then I see Michelle Obama as Joe is walked out. It seemed like they were in the Oval Office. I remember that very clearly. It's like he was being walked out through the Oval Office somehow. She was so mad and angry. She was about to be arrested, it seemed, herself, but when she had a chance, out of rage, there was like what seemed like officers really close at hand with her, ready to arrest her as well. But when she had a chance, out of rage, it felt like she blamed Joe Biden for everything in her heart, or something. There was something that she really was upset about that he had done. It seemed like she had the chance. No one had her in handcuffs in this vision, and so she reached for a gun and she shoots Biden in this vision, full blown, killing him in blood. Now, I didn't see the blood or the gore because he's a God of life, but I did see this happen. She reaches for a gun, she shoots, he falls to the floor. This part, only God knows exactly what each of these symbols mean. We can't take every part literal, but symbols. There's meaning behind this. This was the first vision of this level, this caliber that I've had. And so since that time, I've actually realized it could have been Kamala Harris. So again, this is a vision of various different symbols, of persons, of circumstances, of future things at the time that God gave me this vision. There is meaning behind this, and I'm excited to find out what all this is going to look like when it actually unfolds. I believe some of it is actually unfolding behind the scenes, but one day we will know really and truly what has been taking place. And I understand and am aware that there may be some watching that would say, well, this guy's making this up, or he's lying, or he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's crazy. Whatever you want to say, I am completely aware and understanding there may be some that would try to test this word from God, but it is from the living God. I know what I experienced. So, therefore, you can take it or leave it. This vision has symbols, and I believe one day you will see it unfold in some capacity with the symbols and the truth behind this vision being revealed. And at that time and hour, only God can get the praise, honor, and glory. There's a final scene. I see coffins plural, being loaded into an army plane, the type of military aircraft that the tail lowers. And that's where the vision ended. So these were plural coffins. I saw multiple different coffins. And I don't know. I personally interpreted in that moment when I was experiencing this vision, it is almost as if these were leaders of some kind, not necessarily military personnel that had passed away, but people that were in government that would be honored because simply the fact that they served in an office of a leadership role in the government, but not necessarily with honors. They would be loaded into a military plane as a former whatever, but they would not necessarily, it would not be of honor. It would just simply be of a fact that we honor our nation and those who have served, even if they were wicked and even if they did things to seek harm to our nation. That's, again, an interpretation. I don't know for sure who or what was in those coffins. That's just an interpreted part that I felt that it could be possible. This is the vision God gave me. What are your thoughts? What do you see? What symbols can you interpret that you believe God is saying in this vision that he gave me in 2021? I'm anxious to hear what others might be able to shed light on. Thank you again for watching.
Awake,